Canberra today.
Seeing whether or not there's anything more collectively that governments can do to improve the situation.
The opposition says the state government's mismanagement means it's a wasted effort.
If the system keeps weakening the river, if the rules keep putting fish in danger, nothing will change.
Residents and the government are praying for rain. Sean Berry, 7 News.
Rumours of blackmail are swirling around rugby league tonight as more compromising videos surfaced of players behaving badly. Dragons player Corey Norman was fined over his involvement, while Bulldogs Dylan Napa is seeking legal advice.
I won. Robert, I won. Look, I won.
That the deal could still pass Parliament.
Janice,
won.
it appears unlikely. Our estimate
Robert,
is that
I
she's
won.
probably going to lose this vote by 100 or so, possibly by 200 votes. But still, the Prime Minister is pressing on. She's warned MPs that if her deal is rejected tonight, no Brexit is far more likely than no deal. Theresa May went to the Leave-supporting heartland of Stoke to speak with factory workers, but her message was aimed squarely at MPs in Westminster. Try to backtrack on Brexit and you'll destroy whatever trust the public has left in their elected officials.
People's faith in the democratic process and their politicians would suffer catastrophic harm.
The Prime Minister's pitch in Parliament was more of a plea.
Whatever you may have previously concluded, over these next 24 hours, give this deal a second look. No, it is not perfect, and yes, it is a compromise.
The EU has tried to help her, writing a letter to say it will seek to avoid entering the controversial Irish backstop arrangement. But that's not enough for Mrs May's allies in Northern Ireland.
There needed to be legally binding changes to the withdrawal agreement in order for it to have any chance of getting through this House.
Nor many Conservative Brexiteers.
I think Mr Craig Diamond's deal with absolute confidence is the right thing. Take care, everyone.
If the agreement is rejected as expected, Mrs May will have just 3 sitting days to return to Parliament and outline her plans. She could seek further reassurances from Brussels, which would likely lead to a second or even third vote on the existing deal in Parliament. But if it becomes clear Mrs May won't ever get her deal through the Commons, MPs will then debate alternatives to prevent a no-deal exit on March 29. That could see Brexit Day delayed, a different deal sought, a second referendum, or a general election, which could be triggered by a Labour-led no-confidence vote.
The government is in disarray. It's clear, if the Prime Minister's deal is rejected tomorrow, it's time for a general election. It's time for a new government.
And while Downing Street has all but acknowledged the deal will be rejected on this first attempt, the Prime Minister presses on.
When the history books are written, people will look at the decision. People will look at the decision of this House and ask, did we deliver on the country's vote to leave the European Union? Did we safeguard our economy, our security and our union? Or did we let the British people down?
It is likely that there will be a number of amendments that could be attached to the bill before it's voted on later tonight, and that could reduce the scale of the government's loss to some degree, but few think it'll be enough to turn it into a win for Theresa May. And quite interestingly, the Prime Minister has been asked a couple of times over the last few days as to whether she thinks there could be a second referendum or if Brexit Day could be delayed. She has said repeatedly that she doesn't think that will happen. That's very different from saying it won't happen at all.
And then Labor, of course, has talked about trying to force a no-confidence vote in the government. If that goes ahead, when's that likely to happen?
Well, it could happen as early as tomorrow. The vote would be called tonight, but it would actually happen tomorrow. The Labor leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has been saying for weeks now that he's going to do this, call this no-confidence vote. If the government lost that, it would be likely that Britons would be heading to the polls for another general election. But he's been reluctant to pull the trigger because as it stands, it's unlikely that motion would actually succeed. But many in the Labor Party, though, are pushing their leader to do that, to call this no-confidence vote, because they figure once that's out of the way and if there is no general election, the Labor Party will have to start publicly pushing for a second referendum, which is what many senior members of the opposition are hoping for.
Thanks so much, Ben Lewis, joining us live from Westminster. Diplomatic tensions between China and Canada have escalated after a Chinese court sentenced a Canadian man to death for drug smuggling. Robert Schellenberg was initially sentenced to 15 years in prison after attempting to smuggle methamphetamine into Australia, but a retrial resulted in the death penalty.
Okay.
In an unusual move, the cameras were allowed in the court to record the verdict, which came after just 1 hour of deliberation.
Can you pause it?
The 36-year-old Canadian will be executed for attempting to smuggle 222 kilograms of methamphetamines from the port city of Dalian to Australia in 2014. At his original trial, Mr. Schellenberg was jailed for 15 years, but after an appeal, the court found the sentence was too lenient and granted a one-day retrial. Mr. Schellenberg has always maintained his innocence, arguing he was a tourist framed by criminals. But prosecutors say he is a skilled member of a drug ring. Mr. Schellenberg now has 10 days to appeal the verdict. Canada has vowed to do all it can to help him.
It is of extreme concern to us as a government, as it should be to all our international friends and allies, that China has chosen to begin to arbitrarily apply death penalty in cases facing, as in this case, facing a Canadian.
This latest ruling straining already sour relations between China and Canada.
China thinks it's saying to the world is, we're tough on drugs and we'll prosecute people in accordance with our proceedings, regardless of their nationality, to keep the country safe. I think what most of the rest of the world sees is a very politicized step towards a citizen of a country China is mad at.
Last month, Canada arrested Meng Wanzhou, the top executive of Chinese tech giant Huawei, at the request of the United States. It's thought Mr. Schellenberg could be used as a bargaining chip.
I also think we're going to see the Chinese turn around and say that they're willing to spare him if Canada will let Meng Wanzhou go.
Chinese authorities have executed foreigners for drug crimes in the past, but the accelerated pace of Mr. Schellenberg's appeal hearing, retrial and sentencing, along with the invitation for foreign media to cover the appeal, are all highly unusual. Lydia Feng, SBS World News. Donald Trump has firmly rejected claims he ever worked for Russia. The US president was questioned about it.